Desiring beautiful women is a crisis. Now, this one is apparently according to CNN, but I will also say this seems to be part of a more generalized trend in culture. Both left wing and right wing people seem to view beauty on the left, anything that is feminine, on the right, anything that titillates, as morally evil. A crisis, even. One that needs to be met with sweeping government overreach. We need to ban all pornography. Now, if you're trying to define pornography, it's anything that excites, anything that gets any kind of titillation, any kind of arousal in anyone. That's all. So, like Tomb Raider, any kind of gotcha game with some, feminine looking characters, that is gooner bait. It's pornography. Same thing with on the left. That's why you're seeing all of the strong masculine jawlines. You're seeing broad shoulders on female characters, and you're seeing a lack of anything that we would see normally as feminine beauty. But again, why is this a crisis? Tell me, CNN. Enlighten me.
Spencer, you drew my attention to this incredible article from CNN about the male gaze, and I want to read a quote from it. The recent rise of weight loss medications coincided with social media influencers sharing ways to get smaller and no longer celebrating bodies of all size. Advertisements followed suit, making men's desire once again a dominating factor in how stories are told. Making men's desires once again a dominating factor in how stories are told and how women are portrayed. How had these discarded ideas made their way back into circulation? These discarded ideas, which, by the way, Spencer, will obviously always be with us because they're fundamental to human nature. Didn't we all agree we were through with them? The culprit, I have learned, is the male gaze.
It's interesting. I wonder if he's going to talk about this. The thing that stuck out to me with what you just said was the advent of weight loss drugs. So the Ozempics, the Zepbound, the semaglutides, these types of things that are allowing people that beforehand didn't want to lose weight because it was hard and therefore said, you know what, celebrate me for being fat and unhealthy and these types of things. Be body positive. That's what you need to do. Now they could take a drug and lose weight. And it's easy, so they're all doing it. And now they're going, okay, well, now we need to switch from, you're healthy to any size to now be smaller because there's an easy way to do it. Now everyone should get these, Ozempic drugs. Everybody should get these fat loss drugs. Everybody should do it. Now, here's the thing. I don't actually have a real moral objection to the idea of altering your body chemistry through exogenous chemicals and hormones to achieve a desired aesthetic appearance. I really don't. I don't really have any issues with it. If it's totally safe and effective and all these types of things, and there's no real legitimate, gigantic second order problems, like any consequences that come from this that are worse than the disease, I really don't have any issues with it. I will say it probably does promote a culture of shallowness, appearance-based judging and these types of things. Because if everyone looks really good because, you've got all of these chemicals and hormones and these things around, if there's someone that for some reason, the drugs are not effective on them, or they can't use them because they're allergic to them, or they're not able to afford them, they are now cast into a really low societal tier where they're just like completely outside of the normal human dynamic because they're like so much uglier than everybody else because the average has been raised so high that now if someone is like what would be like a 4 now, they're like a 1. They're like freak show material. They're so horrific looking that they're basically just cast out of society. Like you can't interact with them because they're so ugly looking. That is not a great way to push society. And it does seem, if you take their arguments of the way in which we portray beauty in the media actually does have an effect on, how normal people treat each other in daily life, it's not good to make us way more appearance-based. We're already super honed in on that because of just human biology and neurology, we are super attracted to beauty, to symmetry, to health, and youth. And therefore, turning that dial up and 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 up to the point that everyone is obsessed about their physical appearance is not great. There's a balance because obviously physical appearance does usually correlate with systemic health. And therefore, if you can make yourself more beautiful via, getting healthier, working out more, doing these types of things, that generally promotes more physical attractiveness along with holistic health. That's good. That's healthy. However, if you're going, you know what, there's ways to do this that are unhealthy, but give you the same end result of physical appearance becoming more attractive, everyone's going to go with that route because it's easier. And you get the end result and you get it faster. That's not great. I will say that that's not necessarily a good thing, but also, again, like I said, I have no moral objection to it as long as it's safe and effective, as long as it actually works, it does what it says, and it doesn't give you horrific consequences, then yeah, do it, right? Of course. Right? Why wouldn't you?
It was always there, but now it has stepped back into the spotlight. This written in such casual language on CNN is incredible, especially in the context of this big conversation we've just been having about modernity, Spencer, because it is so almost lackadaisical about discarding fundamental elements of human nature, but doing it in this like sort of TikTok news of the day. I mean, TikTok in the sense of like 60 minutes, like news of the day.
Wait, that was great. Could you do that again, please? That was really, I really liked that.
Spencer, I'd prefer not to.
Oh, really? You don't perform?
Yeah, what do you think I am? Like a zoo animal, Spencer?
Trained seal, yeah. Okay.
Yes, but it's like, so back in 2020, of course, people like Lizzo it is true that the elites were trying to get rid of the quote male gaze by promoting Lizzo as healthy at any size.
I don't think that's the male gaze. I don't think that was eliminating the male gaze. It's true that they were trying to eliminate the male gaze. They were trying to eliminate the male gaze by basically saying, you as a male looking at any woman in a, appraising manner, you going, ooh, she's got a plump ass, or she's got, wow, whatever, anything along those lines, looking at them as, physical features representing beauty or health or youth or whatever is disgusting and horrible and abhorrent, and you need to be excised from society, you need to be re-educated, you need to be chemically castrated because that is toxic masculinity and it's horrible and it's awful and you're evil. Why are you doing this? It's true that they're trying to eliminate that. I don't think it's by making people body positive. That seems like a separate category. That seemed like a separate category of basically, again, people that were unhealthy didn't want to change their routine because it's difficult, and it is. There's no doubt about it. It's difficult, especially in America and just perhaps Western civilization in general, where food is so tasty and so plentiful, and it's also kind of a little bit difficult to get really good healthy options in America, especially. Not if you know some tricks, but much more difficult on average than it should be. And therefore, instead of saying, you know what, this is a problem that we need to deal with, no, it's not a problem. You solve that problem by saying it's not a problem, and you're a bigot for thinking it's a problem that we've got a lot of fat, unhealthy people around. No, body positive. Everybody's beautiful at all sizes, at all ages, every degree of health. It's all totally fine. It's all totally the same. And you're a bigot for thinking that. The male gaze is a separate thing.
That was glossy magazine coverage. Wasn't just Lizzo, all over the place. Now that Ozempic exists, we're sort of like vibe shift. Magazines are hot again, allegedly. Yeah. I don't know. But there's something kind of interesting there.
Well, speaking as a male gay, I too find it really objectionable when men gaze at me with such design. I mean, I'm sorry, I've been waiting to tell
Unbridled
that joke
lust.
for
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It's like I too hate being beautiful and desirable.
Catcalled, the
Right,
construction
right.
workers.
I mean, this whole line of thought has really always seemed like protesting too much to me. Like, oh no, it's so awful how all the men, they look at me and they find me so beautiful, and it really just hurts my little heart. Oh, stop! Don't do it anymore. But
That is funny. That's actually really hilarious to like think about it, where it's like, God, yeah, it's like, I can't even walk down a street in New York City without getting catcalled all the time. I'm like, that is funny. I haven't heard that, and I guess it takes a gay guy to be able to say that, because I have not heard that.
on top of that, yeah, there's the whole vibe shift kind of angle to this. I'm not so sure that the Ozempic thing, how much that's going to wash. Like, it was not Ozempic that caused people to get fed up with
Pun
looking
intended.
at, like, yeah, exactly, with looking at like obese rappers spilling out of their underwear, right? That was
Nobody was ever okay with that, just to be
exactly.
clear.
This was all right.
The Women's Studies Department of Oberlin was overjoyed about that. It was
Right.
pretty much relegated to the faculty lounge.
Well, that's the part of it that really that I find actually most interesting. You know, there was just this study. I think it was an internal study done at Harvard about how basically grade inflation and political grandstanding has taken over the school, has like eaten it up from the inside out.
True.
And now a Harvard degree, you know, you might have learned something if you went to Harvard. You might equally just have spent 4 years learning to disguise your true sentiments and tamp down any spark of originality that might occur to you, because
Everyone's got a little Pete Hegseth in them. Everyone
That's
wants to
right.
go off on the fat generals, but at Harvard, we're taught to resist that.
I too,
Unlearning
yeah, exactly.
the Pete
Yeah.
Hegseth in all of us.
That's right. We need to be trained, reprogrammed, deprogrammed, even
Yes.
out of our fat phobia. Right. So I did not look up who the authors of this article are, because life is very short and I have important things to do. But I can only presume that these are two, I think it's two women that are writing like a think piece based on their women's
Oh.
studies degree.
Oh my.
Right? Or it's just
Yes.
one. Yeah.
It could have been anyone
Two
that I went to
I think it
school
took two people to
Yeah.
write this article, if you can believe it.
Probably. Yeah, makes sense.
What's really, to me, what hurts my sensitive scholar's heart just a little bit is to reflect on the fact that, like, if we lived in a society, outlets like CNN could be running pieces by actual scholars informing the public about
Oh, shut
some
up.
matter.
That's very difficult to say. I don't think that's true, because I don't think the reporters at any of these large organizations have the scientific know-how to actually be able to read any of these articles. And that's backed up by every scientific article, or every article on a scientific article that I've ever read misrepresents the findings of that scientific article. Like 100% of the time. I don't think I've ever heard it correct.
This is like, we're like going to cut the feed. And so I start talking about this. But, you know, like, there was a time, I'm old enough to, actually not old enough to remember, but like there was a time, I'm told, when guys like Tom Holland would have, say, a regular column in The Guardian, right? When you would have this idea of the public intellectual, it was not a news of the day story. Maybe it had a bit of a news hook, maybe it was attached to some news story, but really it was a way for the people who had invested time and energy in becoming experts in some field, and in whom the civilization had also invested resources and education, as a way for them to give back to the world, right? That was kind of part of their obligation as people that got to spend time thinking. We've now basically, like everything else, the left has taken this and worn it as a skin suit, hollowed it out, zombified it, and turned it into a decrepit, rotting shell of itself, so that you end up with these articles about concepts about nothing, right? This is literally no word in this piece refers to any underlying reality. There are like 3 at least degrees of remove from any concept in this article and anything that's actually true to what's going on in human nature. Basically, if you translate the piece, the subtext is the campaign of intimidation and lies that we managed to foist upon the American public for about 5 years has now disintegrated. And we are dismayed that people aren't ashamed of their natural inclinations anymore, right? That's what the piece is about. And so if you consider the layers and generations and decades of social failure that have to go into creating a situation where people like this can become credentialed at major institutions for talking absolute rot, not just while talking absolute rot, but they have degrees in talking absolute rot, which then is published in our ostensibly major news outlets. That part of it, if you think about it too much, actually does make you want to drink yourself into a stupor, because it's just like very shameful that this happens.
I mean,
Look, the slow march through the institutions worked. It absolutely did work. This is how you get that. This is how this happened. It happened because you had ideologues move through all the institutions, and they became the intelligentsia, they became the journalists, they became the public officials, they became the bureaucrats, they became the teachers, they became all of the people that were influencing each other. And now it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle that essentially you don't even need people that are ideologues, communist ideologues that want to inhabit some post, Marxist world wherein which reality is entirely subjective, and they are just, they're creating the subjectivity. They're creating that subjective reality by creating new terms like body positive and, DEI and all of these types of things. It's now kind of a self-perpetuating cycle because they're still there. Until they're all totally rooted out, it's going to continue. Now, obviously, this stuff is not related to reality. It's not. And therefore, when the rubber meets the road, there's a point at which that ideology, that type of person can't exist anymore. Like they pass this line, they dissolve into the smoke and mist that they are. However, that still allows a lot of space where they can occupy. We need to push that line back such that they are relegated to a small corner of reality that becomes increasingly irrelevant. Right now, we are in a place, we're in a time where we are pushing back, where people have realized, no, this is crazy. We thought about it, we gave it a hearing, we were like, okay, beautiful to every size. Yeah, okay, didn't really make a lot of sense, like, kind of just went against my natural inclination, but I mean, we'll give it a shot, right? Okay. And then it just kept going further, and we go, oh, okay, now, no. Like, not only does this disagree, this is just bullshit. I don't agree with this. Not only do I not agree with this, this is just like, this offends my sensibilities, that you're trying to tell me that now this, 500-pound person is not only beautiful, but also like healthy. It's also totally fine. There's not any complications that come with this. It's just like, yeah. Like, this is fine. This is exactly the same as being an Olympic athlete. Sydney Sweeney and this person are exactly the same. They're totally the same. And to say any different means that you're an evil person. No, not taking it anymore. Nope. Gone. Not happening anymore. That's good that we've realized that and we're standing up for it. The question is that how far can we push that line back such that they become irrelevant in the future? Or is it going to be they're just going to go underground? They're going to keep doing what they're doing in a very subtle manner. And then when we drop our guard, they're going to pop back and do, another march through the institutions. We have to figure out what we're going to do with that. We have to figure out if we're going to allow that to happen or not. And it might be painful and it might be a little bit uncomfortable to do what's necessary to make sure that that doesn't happen, to really instill the values in people that this type of stuff is bullshit and to be able to recognize it, it's going to take some work.
Ostensibly, you've just said a lot of smart things, but I also am of the great suspicion that was a loquacious, thickly veiled pitch for your own CNN.com column, Spencer Klavan.
Put me in, coach. I promise never to talk about the male gaze. No, I want to post at CBS, right? That's I always get them mixed up. But CBS is the one that just got taken over by Barry Weiss, right? So
that's right.
Who knows? Maybe that'll fix things.
But I think really, Spencer, where they need you is CNN at this point.
That's true. Yeah, it's a good point. All right.
They're already writing about the male gaze. So
I need to apply my male gaze to some sensitive issues of national politics.
As a matter of representation, it's only right. Did you know?
All right. So with that, good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll say farewell for now.